Alrighty, sounds good. Well, thanks for coming, everyone, here at HackNC. I'm going to talk about the world of APIs behind everything you do online. My name is Ken Lane. I'm the chief evangelist at Postman, and my role is to really help people light the fire under their imagination around what's possible with APIs. And tonight I'm going to do a workshop, kind of show you hands-on how to use APIs within Postman. Um, and I'm going to start off kind of with some fundamentals. So if you're a more hardcore hacker or programmer, don't be discouraged early on. I just want to kind of lay a foundation for everyone and make sure everyone's up to speed on what is an API, why APIs matter, and why all of this is so important to us in our everyday lives. Because literally APIs are behind everything that we're doing today, and I kind of want to set the stage for that. So in the last 20 years, we've seen this explosion of APIs, and it started back in around 1995 to 2000 as the web was getting going, and all of this has evolved alongside of the web. And it there's a lot of different types of APIs, so it's tough to understand, whether it's hardware or not. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that here. But really, it began with eBay, Amazon, and Salesforce, thinking how you could use the web in a different way, and then that was um, taken to a different level by when it comes to social media, mobile phones, the cloud, and all of that. And then here we are in 2020 with APIs behind everything, behind every piece of software that we use. So let's kind of set the stage for how we got here, and then we can hack a little bit on how you can actually use APIs. So along this way, in the last 20 years, what kind of made all of this happen is three main components. APIs have been around for the last 30 years, but really what I'm focusing on and building up to is the latest three shifts that have really made a difference. And one of them is putting things into the consumer sphere when it comes to mobile devices. And the second is changing how we actually build software and going to from a monolith kind of approach to building software to using microservices. And then really one of the biggest kind of seismic fundamental shifts was the cloud. And the cloud's been another thing that's been building for a good 30, 40 years here. It's not anything new, but it's just kind of hit a peak. And that's kind of where we're at right now is APIs, mobile, and cloud have all kind of set the stage for where we're at right now. So first, let's start with the basics. What is an API? Well, the web is made for humans to browse websites, web applications, actually see what's going on. But that browser takes the HTML that's under the covers and renders it in a more visual way that allows us to actually see what's going on as humans. Makes things a little bit more attractive to our eyes. APIs are used to deliver the same content, the same data, but to applications in XML or in JSON. JSON is the preferred way. I would say there's still, if you work in enterprise, XML is going to be still pretty dominant, but JSON is the preferred way to pass data around using APIs, using the web, but for building mobile applications and web applications and other modern applications. Postman, if you're not familiar with Postman, think of Postman as a browser, but rather than rendering the HTML so it's friendly for your eyeballs, kind of pulls back the curtains and allows you to work with both HTML and JSON or XML, and actually lets you make calls to websites. So it works very much like a browser. You have tabs and you can pull URLs, but you just have a lot more knobs and dials that you can pull when it comes to actually putting an API to work and seeing how it works, which we're going to show you a little bit of here shortly. So how are APIs used? I've talked a little bit about this. the HTML behind the websites we're viewing oftentimes today is delivered using APIs. So most of the web applications we're using actually use APIs behind the scenes. And I'm going to show you a little bit of how you can kind of reverse engineer, hack on, and actually see what's going on behind the websites that you use every day. APIs really were kind of evolving behind the scenes, but once the iPhone came out in 2007 and 8, and then Android in by 2009, APIs were the favorite way to push data to mobile applications. And then we started seeing the same mechanisms being used to deliver data and information to devices. So connecting everyday devices to the web, and like our automobiles, signs, our thermostats, temperature, everything in our world is being connected to the internet, and APIs are how that's being made possible. So let's just take a quick stroll back through how we got here to understand why, how critical this is, and the kind of scale and scope that I'm talking about. APIs have been around a long time. I would say some of the earliest APIs emerged with ARPANET. So the early internet, and APIs have been evolving alongside the internet, and then the emergence of the web. And it's how applications have been talking to each other using networks for quite some time. There's a kind of an old school API out there called Electronic Data Exchange, or EI. If you work in commercial, financial, healthcare, kind of the bedrock industries, you've come across EDI, which is just an electronic data interchange. It's an API. It's the old school APIs, and it's really how kind of the backbone of our global economy operates and has since the 70s. So APIs are kind of the modern APIs are just kind of the tip of this iceberg. FTP, file transfer protocols. If you're a web developer, you're familiar with FTP. You use FTP to push files up to a server. These are long been considered APIs and used as programmatic interfaces within applications. And you go to many companies today and you ask them if they have an API, they'll give you an FTP location and say, go pull and publish XML or JSON files to this location. Email. Email has been moving messages around for years. Yes, humans are using email to send messages to each other, but it is very common to pass machine readable information around using email protocols. So SMTP, POP, IMAP are all being used by EDI and other service-oriented architecture to move information around in an automated way. So email is an API. The web, really, as soon as the web came around, web was about HTML, as I showed you, but it's much more than just HTML and rendering in a browser these days. The modern web has really set the stage for what we know now as APIs. So real quick, what are some types of APIs, these modern APIs? It can be kind of confusing if you're new to the space or you're just hacking on them. You tend to think the first type of API you've learned is the one that rules them all, but really there's quite a stack of APIs out there that people can use to get things done. SOAP, if you work in the enterprise, Simple Object Access Protocol is a very relevant way to provide system-to-system integrations and data for use in applications. Many new, more modern web API and mobile application API developers would like to see SOAP go away. But if you work in government, healthcare, large enterprise organizations, you know that SOAP is still in use and probably isn't going anywhere anytime soon. REST, or representational state transfer, emerged around 1999 with Roy Fielding's dissertation. And in 2020, it is the default definition of when you hear the acronym API. This is what people are talking about. It's a very simple way of making data, content, and algorithms available using APIs. It's language agnostic, and it's simple enough that a wide variety of developers and even non-developers understand how to use, put to use, as well as deploy and provide APIs, which we're going to touch on a little bit. GraphQL emerging in the last couple of years out of Facebook. You see very data intensive, React driven content management systems using GraphQL APIs to move data around. If you're building a single page application on top of large data sets or sets of content, GraphQL makes a lot of sense. GitHub has a GraphQL API. You can put it to use. Pinterest has a GraphQL API. There's plenty of them out there to play with and use. gRPC. gRPC is a internal API approach used at Google for the last 20 years. But in the last 5 years, you've seen it emerge as a favorite type of API when it comes to B2B. It tends to not be a business to consumer API. So you don't see many of them publicly available or as part of public SaaS services and cloud platforms. But when it comes to B2B, gRPC is rapidly growing, allowing more stable, high performance APIs. They're a little bit more technical overhead when it comes to actually using them. WebSockets over the last decade, WebSockets has emerged as a way of moving data around in a real-time way. So sustained APIs, you don't just make requests and get responses back. You actually are using TCP rather than HTTP to establish a sustained connection and publish and subscribing to data that is made available over that connection. You'll see WebSockets used for a lot of financial applications. If you're into the Bitcoin realm, you'll see WebSockets APIs. Most of the blockchain and Bitcoin APIs are WebSockets APIs. Okay, so we're getting there. We're getting to the hands-on part of this. So why should APIs matter to you? Well, they power everything in your personal life. Your laptop, your mobile phone, your refrigerator, your thermostat, your cameras, all the digitally internet connected things that are in your home use APIs. And if you're aware of them, you can reverse engineer and you can understand what is happening behind the scenes. APIs are powering everything in your professional life. So if you are API aware and you can hack on them and you can build them, you're going to be more successful in your career. Every piece of software that you're using at your company is using APIs or has an API available. How public they are with that varies from software to software, but that's one of the things you should be equipped to make a decision around is what software should you use based on whether they have an API, how easy that API is to use. So really what I'm here today is, I don't know who's in the audience. I try to never make assumptions on how much of a developer you are or not, because my role is to kind of show developers and non-developers alike that APIs exist and they're right behind the scenes, and using Postman to show you how you can do that. Postman is you can script and write code and generate code within Postman, but you don't have to. And that means it's accessible to developers as well as non-developers to actually work with APIs. But what's important is I don't think everyone should just be an API consumer. I think people should also be an API producer. And I feel pretty strongly that non-developers should also be API producers and be part of that conversation. And this is really what Postman is all about. It started as an API consumer tool, allowing you to kick the tires on what APIs do. But it's rapidly become one of the top ways for actually designing, developing, and publishing APIs and managing them across the API lifecycle. And in my opinion, everybody should be both an API consumer and an API producer. You may not be actually owning a production API, but you should have a full awareness of this entire life cycle and how it works from both sides of the coin. So with that said, let's just show you. Let's get out of the deck. I'm an engineer, so I prefer actually playing with APIs and actually using them rather than being in a slide deck. So let's pull up our Postman here. We're sitting in a fresh desktop edition of Postman. You can use Postman in the desktop, but you can also use it on the web. So Postman has moved to the web recently, and let me load up the web interface here. Choose the right account because I have multiple accounts. I'm going to go to my demo account with all my APIs in it. And then, so I can use Postman as a client on the desktop, and I can also use Postman as a client on the web. And the web's being a little bit more slow. There we go. So I can use Postman on the web, and I can work with different APIs here. But I'm going to go to the desktop because this is what most people think of when they use Postman. It's become the ubiquitous favorite tool of developers for the last 5 years, and how you actually make sense of APIs. So where do we get started? What is Postman? How to use it? Once you load, you're not going to have any collections here. A collection is how you define your APIs and actually put them to use. If you don't have any collections, I recommend going up here to the new button. Let's click on that, and you'll see there's several options for you if you want to start consuming or building APIs. We're going to go to the API network and look for APIs that are already available that we can actually put to use. You'll see a lot of APIs that you recognize here, Twitter, Imager. What we're going to do is we're going to look under templates. Templates is kind of single use APIs that show you how to do different things. Developers are sharing them here to help people understand what's possible. And I'm going to show you, you can search for, let's search for public, whoops, let's see if I can spell it properly. Public REST API. Let's just do public REST. Public REST APIs, there we are. So if you look at this one, click on it. We're given the option to run in Postman. That's what we want to do. If you want to just check out the documentation, you can, but let's go ahead and just click run, because this is going to give us our first collection inside of Postman and actually show you what's possible with Postman. And again, if you're familiar with Postman and you're a pretty savvy developer, stay tuned. I'm going to get a little bit, I'm going to gradually get more complicated here, or more complex in how I'm using Postman and putting it to use. So stay tuned. Don't tune out, because I'm just trying to make sure everyone can get up to speed on what Postman is all about and put it to use, and not make any assumptions about what everyone knows. So now I have a collection here. I have my first collection in my Postman. I've got 56 requests. If I expand it, I've got a whole mess of different API requests in different areas, meant to show you kind of the versatility of the different types of APIs out there. So if I'm into animals, I can pull cat facts. I click on the individual request. Like I said, it looks like a browser. I've got a browser tab here. Let me zoom in a little bit, because I know on the video it can be a little hard to see. There we go. So it looks very much like a browser. I've got a tab. I've got a web URL here. But instead of just assuming that I'm going to get data, it's got the ability to do a lot more. And this is where I start being able to get behind the scenes of making an API request. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And this is going to pull back. This is a public API, so I don't have to authenticate. And this is going to give me some JSON here down at the bottom, and allows me to actually see different cat facts. So different terms. If you're not a cat person, go ahead and go to the dog breeds. You can pull JSON on different dog breeds. And like I said, you can rather than a browser, it doesn't give you a lot of controls. All you can really do is pull up a web page. This gives you control to be able to change what parameters you send in. You can authenticate, you can manage your headers, and all the technical details of your request, as well as all the details of your response. You can see the JSON here. We've got quite a few different breeds. We can see the results, whether it was a successful call or not, how long it took. We can save this response if we want to save it to a file. We can. So we can start playing around with a lot of different API requests here. This gives us the ability to just kind of see what's possible. There's bikes, barcodes, church-related stuff. If you're into comics, Game of Thrones, there's just really a lot of different things. If you're into jokes, dad jokes, Chuck Norris jokes, you can find a request here that really shows you what's possible with APIs. And so this gives you kind of a look at what Postman does. It's a API testing and debugging tool. Not necessarily, I'll show you a little bit about actual API testing here in a bit, but I'm talking testing like lets you test this out, see what this API is all about, test out, see a response. Here's our Chuck Norris joke of the day, and actually just start playing with them. And then you can save these API requests as collections. So if you want to keep this collection here, you can. If you want to delete it, you can remove it at any time. You can organize them by different workspaces. So I've got my demo workspace here that I use for demos, but I have my personal workspace where it's got a lot of other collections that I have saved from all the different APIs that I use. It's pretty messy. I'm not going to show it to you. But I also have a lot of team workspaces because I work across my team, and we have a whole bunch of different team workspaces that we use that have different APIs, different projects that we use, partner projects. And so I can work with many different APIs in here, save them as collections. And as I showed you, you can use the API network to find APIs, to use them to find templates. And there's a lot of different APIs in here that you can find by category, looking for different APIs. So that's kind of an introduction to kind of the basics of how to use Postman, how to make calls to APIs. But let's find a different API, a little bit more advanced. That's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to set up, and see if I can do it in the time allotted. Let's do a Twitter API. This is a pretty relevant one, and we're going to use the Twitter API v2. Well, actually, let's use Twitter API v2, and hopefully I can get a key set up in time. I think you have to be approved to use this, but let me see. All right. So it looks like that got imported. Now I've got a Twitter collection here that I can use. It's got allows me to look up tweets. It allows me to look up different users. It allows me to do a recent search, which is a pretty powerful search. But when I load up this request here, I'm going to make a call to it. I'm going to hit send. You'll see I'm going to get an error, 401 unauthorized. Twitter is not a public API, even though it is publicly available. You can use it as a public API. You have to be authenticated to use it. And so let's actually go sign in and actually use the Twitter API and see if we can't get go from 0 to making a call. So let's just Google the Twitter API. Here we go, developer.twitter.com. Now I need to get me some keys. I need to be able to actually get access to my Twitter account. All right, so here we are. I can look around at the docs, look around at all the different things here, but Postman has everything that I need. I just need my keys. So I'm gonna click over to their developer portal where you should be able to have Postman Twitter collections where I have V1 and V2 access. I am going to, let's see if we can't set up a new one. They've changed their interface, so it always takes me a little bit to remember how to actually get something going. So project apps, let me see, manage. So manage my apps. Keys and tokens. And so what I'm going to do here is I need a bearer token. So I'm going to Lets me actually see what I need. Let's go back to my Postman. Now, Twitter should have given me an environment here. Here we go. I should have been able to see. All right. So here we are. We should be able to uh, grab. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can set up a consumer secret and key with access token and secret, or you can just get a bearer token. Now, a bearer token is kind of the path of least resistance. If I go back here, and I'm going to regenerate this token because I'll regenerate it after each demo. Yes, regenerate. All right. And I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go add it to my here. Now, if I add it to my initial value here, it's going to be shared with my rest of my team. So I really don't want to do that. I want to put it in the current value kept for me. If I want frozen, 1 second. Let me see if I can't get it to work here. It seems to be stuck. Live coding, hazards of live coding. All right, 1 second. Looks like it just crashed. Hazards of the desktop app. This is, you will encounter this occasionally with the desktop application. Normally I try to restart it each day, try to keep resources low, but this is definitely one of the reasons we're moving to the web. Just a lot more resources on the web available to us. All right, we're loading back up here. Here we go. But this is the hazards of live coding and working within the app rather than just working in a deck where everything's safe. Oh, really? I'm not going to prepare all my workspaces, are you? All right, here we go. My desktop seems a little slow today. I don't think it's the app. I think it's my desktop. Hopefully I land back in my demo workspace. We'll see. Taking its sweet time. Here we are. Here's our collection. Looks like the requests are still loading. Give it 1 second. There we are. All right, let's get back to our environment, see if it's going to let us into our environment here. I've been doing Kroger demos as well. All right, so let's go back to my bearer token here. I'm going to paste my bearer token in here. I'm going to hit update. Then I'm going to load this environment here. I'm going to go back to my recent search. I'll load this up. And let's look at our authentication tab and see what we've got going on here. So Twitter has set up their authentication to inherit from the parent, which means up here at the collection level, if you edit it, the keys are stored up here, or the authorization is actually stored here. So we click here on the authorization tab. It starts with using OAuth 1.0, which pulls the consumer keys from. You can use these. We're going to use OAuth 2, which is the bearer token. It's a little simpler, and with the new Twitter developer area, it makes it easy to actually use. So we're going to just call that variable, which I believe, let's see, is bearer token, if I remember. There's our token. So we're going to hit update. The screen being so scrunched is really hard, making it hard to work. So I'm going to zoom out one bit. So now I should be able to actually make a call. Fingers crossed. There, oh, we got an error, invalid query. So let's go look at our parameters. What did we do wrong? Oh, we need a query. We're making a search. Oh, let's search for something. Let's just search for Postman. Let's hit send again. Boom. We've got a search. So we've actually got data pulled back. All I've got are ID and text of a bunch of tweets mentioning Postman, but I was able to make a call. I was able to download that request and actually go get a bearer token for my Twitter account using the developer.twitter, put that bearer token here at the collection authorization level, and now I can make a call. But all of the details of what I want to be making a call with are here. All the you can turn on any of these fields, filter by start time, by end time, choose how many results to return. There's really a robust amount of different parameters you can pass in with an API here. So that's how you can get using not just free public APIs with no authorization, but actually start using the Twitter API using Postman. And again, you can make different searches here. You can save those responses to a file. You can write scripts that work with that body if you're a developer. So now I can actually start working with these results. And all it is just JavaScript here. If I want to start, grabbing and looking for specific values in the response, I can grab the little snippets over here on the right. There's quite a few different ones you can choose. But what this does is this call right here, if I just grab this little it just grabs this response here. So now I have this response and I can actually start using it and scripting against it. Now, whatever I do with this response here, I can loop through it, grab the tweets that I want, look for certain links, pull out, look for certain hashtags. Let me scroll up a little bit. I can do whatever I want with these tweets, grab the data that I want, and then I can then save that data, do it, publish it somewhere else. Say I want to publish the results. And you can store them up here in the environment. So say I just want to store these tweets for later, and I'm not going to be running this manual. I don't want to actually hit save to file. What you can do is use your environments. So you can let's go ahead and we can get an environment. We can set an environment variable. Whoops, I did it twice. Let's set. So what we're going to do is we're going to just call this tweets, all caps. And I'm going to just grab this data and I'm going to save it here. But I want to stringify it first. I want to make sure that it is actually JSON data because this gives me an object back. So if I hit save and I hit send, now my response is here. But if I go look up in my environment here, I actually have the tweet data here stored as a variable called tweets. Now you can save these in different ways. There is a limitation to how much data you can store in here and for how long, but it gives you the ability to store this data and then do other things to it and then possibly publish it to another API. Say I wanted to add an API request for Dropbox or for Amazon S3, I could then publish that data there. Now, once I have these collections saved and I have this set up to pull my data, work with it, and publish it, I can run this collection anytime. So I can run it I can schedule it. I want to set it up as a monitor. I can choose my Twitter API v2 collection. I can choose what environment I want it to actually use and store in. And then I can choose how often I want to run it on a schedule. So I can run any of these collections that I want on a monitor, on a schedule from different regions in the cloud. And so this shows you how to start going to that next level of, oh, I can work with APIs, but I can actually automate and orchestrate using APIs now. And I can build as many of these collections as I want with as few or as many requests as I need. I can run them manually as runners. So this is if I want to run a bunch of them at once. So say I'm running my request. Here's my Twitter v2 API. I've got all of these requests in here, but I want to say I only want to run recent search. But you know what? I'm going to run it 25 times. And I'm going to run it here with Twitter v2. And so you can orchestrate with API calls here, running them as a runner, or as I just showed, you can run them as a monitor. And then if you're a more advanced developer, you can also run them as part of a CI/CD process, whether it's Jenkins, Circle CI, GitHub. If you search for Postman Newman, Newman is the open source runner for running collections at the command line level. And so you can click here, and here's the GitHub and the NPM registry. And then if you want an introduction, here's the documentation to actually find it. But Newman will then run those same collections as part of your CI/CD pipeline. So if you want to automate and do things, you can automate. If you want to check code and check for things or move code between APIs, there's many different ways you can do there. So let me show you now. That's kind of 101 level APIs. I would say this is kind of 201 level APIs. But I talked about how APIs are behind everything that we use, all of the web applications. So let's create another collection here. We're going to create a new collection. This one is going to be just empty. And we're going to call this Facebook. I'm going to show you how to use some of the Facebook APIs that aren't actually part of their public API. So if you go to Facebook API, similar to we did for Twitter, Facebook's got an amazing API, lots going on there. Many different APIs. They've got the Instagram APIs. So you can come down here. Here's the Instagram APIs, Messenger, everything you're ever going to want via the Facebook platform, except for, where's the Graph API? They seem to always hide it from me. Let's see all products. AR, VR, business tools, instant experience, Instagram, places graph. Did I just scroll past it? Why can't I find it? Places graph. Oh, there's GraphQL. We talked about graph. Where's just the Facebook Graph API? Weird. Never happened to me before. Here's the Graph API. I'll Google it to find it, to get to the actual page. So this is the Graph API that gives you access to supposedly the entire surface area of Facebook. So everything you want to access in Facebook is here. From things I didn't know, flights I did not know things were in Facebook, but all the objects, everything you want to play with, except you cannot post to Facebook anymore using their API. And so when it comes to web applications that don't share their APIs with us, there's ways that you can use Postman to find those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to Facebook. I'm going to introduce you to a tool called Postman Interceptor, which is a Chrome plugin. So, whoops, I didn't spell it correctly. See if it still pulls up. There it is. So Postman Interceptor is a Chrome add-on that will let you proxy and build collections from any web traffic. So I've already got it installed, so I don't need to add it. You're going to find it up here. Just a little add-on in my browser. There it is. I can turn it on to capture requests at any point. I'm going to filter because if you look there, it's bringing in API calls that are already happening without me doing anything, because some application I have in my browser just is making automatic API calls. Twitter, this Hangout is making calls. So I'm going to filter this, and I'm going to only for anything that has Facebook in it. So I only want Facebook calls to store. Now, these are going to be coming in. If I come here to my Facebook, give you guys a peek into my private life, and I refresh the screen here, and I look at my interceptor, you can see I'm pulling in now Facebook API calls, gets and posts, everything that's going on behind the scenes in Postman. Now, the magic of this is I want to come here and be able to actually use those. And I can come up here and capture requests. I'm doing it via Interceptor, which is on and connected, but I want these calls to go into my collection called Facebook. And so I've got no requests in here. I haven't created one. Let's go back to our Facebook, and I'm going to post something. So I'm going to say, hello there. Say hi to all of my shop viewers. Whoops, and I can type. I'm going to go ahead and hit post. All right, now I'm going to go back here to my Postman, and I'm going to go, wow, I've got a handful of requests made in here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the interceptor because, as you can see, if I just leave it on, it's constantly pinging and saving, and I don't want to get too lost in all of my requests. So I'm going to go ahead and come back here, and I'm going to turn off interceptor for a bit, and I'm going to look at my API requests here and take some reverse engineering, because Facebook is pretty verbose in the calls that they make. But what I'm doing here is, this is an individual post to Facebook. I just reverse engineered how the Facebook API works. And so it's got the full call with all of the parameters that were sent. It's got the headers that were passed along with it. It's got the body that was passed in. And this looks like it was some sort of query. And I can do this for each request until I find the one I'm looking for, which I believe is my post. And it takes a little bit of looking, because how they post, use their ad API is not entirely straightforward. And so let's see here. Variables. I think this variables is what I'm looking for. Oh, so look, here it is. Here it is. You can find it in here. Here's my message. Say hello to all of my workshop viewers. So there's the text of this message that I sent. Now, say I want to post a new message. This is a new message via the API. Now, this will take you a little bit to find this API call. I've done this quite a few times, so I was able to find it. But it's a post call to the GraphQL endpoint, and this message is going to be here in a proper body property called variables, and it's going to be buried in there. And this is by design. This is security through obscurity, and just making it really difficult to find what needs to happen. So let's go ahead and hit send on this and see what it does. Oh, I get back a bunch of garbly goop. I really don't know what this means. It's pretty cryptic. But let's go back to our Facebook here. So look under my profile. Come on. There we go. Oh, look. And here, oh, nope, it didn't post. That's not good. Let me refresh and see if it's here. Nope, it's not going to do it for me. Man, not good. Okay, so I got a 200 status code. Let me make sure my text is actually changed. Let me look here again. This is a new message via the API. Should have done it. Let's see here. Let's run it again. Got a 200. Not logged in. It says, oh, because I'm not using cookies. See, I need to have up-to-date cookies. Let's make sure. See, I'm going to turn this back on. And I'm going to turn on and I'm going to capture cookies. So it's got to capture. Facebook is using cookies, and I've got to be able to pass those cookies in. So let's do this again. I'm going to delete this so I don't get confused again, because it will bring in a lot of API calls, and see if we can pull this off in the short amount of time that we got. So let's create a new collection. Let's call it Facebook. This is why I love live programming, because you always got to make stuff happen in a short period of time. Let's go back here. Let's turn on make sure our interceptor is turned on. We are on. We have our filters. Let's go back to our Postman. Let's look at our interceptor connector here. We are on. We have our cookies on. We have our requests on, but they're going to, let's send them to our collection there. All right. Now let's try that again. Go back to the home page. Clock's ticking. Come on, Facebook. All right. So we're going to make this a little shorter this time. So we're going to go, hello world. And then I'm going to go ahead and shut this off because I don't want to capture any more requests. I'm going to go back to my Postman. And, ooh, it didn't look like it grabbed it. No. That was just a relay call. Oh, I'm not capturing requests. Come on, Ken, pull it together. Hello world. Part 2. Before we shut it off this time. Okay, now we're getting calls in here. This looks a little bit better, but it looks like I'm going to have to wade through a few calls to be able to find the one that I want. All right, let's shut it off before we get any other calls in here. All right, go back to our Postman. Let's see what we got here. This API GraphQL is probably it. It looks like we got 3 of them here. So we got a variables, which looks pretty short. Got one with variables, looks pretty short. Let's go here, look at this one. Man, I'm not doing too well here, am I? API GraphQL body. Ooh, this one looks a little longer. This looks like it might have the data we're looking for. Nope, it's pretty short too. It's not looking good for my short time here. Hmm. Let's filter by API GraphQL just to give us only the GraphQL calls. This is what I meant. This is why I turn them off so you don't get too many. Our body's pretty short here. We not the variables we're looking for. So it's posting a lot of different data to its GraphQL API. So I'm gonna just sort through and see. That one looks pretty short too. Oh, that one's pretty short. Come on, baby. Don't fail me now. Doesn't have the variables we're looking for. But it does show you how. Oh. This is it. This one's got more stuff in it. So where's the content? It's hard to see in the weeds sometimes. And I made it such a short message. I'm gonna grab this out and I'm going to load up a little notepad here and I'm gonna search for it in there because there's our world. So we're gonna do hello world and we're gonna say goodbye because we're getting close to the end here. Whoops. And I'm gonna paste this back in here and then I'm gonna hit send and hopefully our cookies work. And no, we did not get our cookies to work on that one. I'm gonna look and see if I can save this. I'm gonna just hit send on this one to see. Nope, not logged in. That one looks pretty short. I'm gonna just hit send on this one. This one. No, for some reason my cookies aren't working as expected. Not good. Yeah. So I think what I probably so these are Facebook cookies. These are cookies across many different applications. I'm gonna try to save this one last time, you guys, and then you'll just have to forgive me. I don't see any Facebook cookies. I think that's what our problem is. Oh, I think that was it. That it didn't. I didn't have it added, so I can't. It wouldn't actually store cookies from Facebook. Okay, we got 8 minutes. See if I can do this. See if I can do it. I'm gonna delete this collection real quick. I'm gonna create a new collection. Call it Facebook. All right. Now I'm gonna check here. Check my interceptor. I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna route it into my Facebook collection. Apparently, I might have two of them now. We'll see. Hmm. Oh, yeah, that's right. Didn't actually delete it. Well, let's see which one it goes in here. Okay, back to our browser. We are capturing requests. We have filters. We are doing cookies. I'm going to add the facebook.com. I'm going to add that domain. I'm going to check over here to make sure interceptor, and we've got cookies on, and we're doing it for the Facebook domain. That was the mistake I made. I didn't add this domain. All right, let's go back to Facebook. Let's one last try. My Facebook followers are probably cracking up trying to figure out what it is that I'm posting. But luckily they are used to that because they know me. All right, I've got 2 requests in here. Probably one of them is the GraphQL one we're looking for. Looks like it. Let's look in those settings. Variables. Looks pretty short. Let's go to the next one. This looks a little longer. Display comments. Let's see if I can find it. This is like you know, the girl in the red dress from the Matrix. Paste into my notepad again. One last try. Here it is. All right. Did it work? Add a little test. All right. Let's paste it. Let's hit send. Oh, I didn't get an error. I didn't get an error. It's looking pretty promising. Hold on. All right, let's go back to my Facebook. Let's go back to my wall here. Did I do it? Did I do it? No, I don't see any of these posts. Even my last one from the interface. Oh, come on, Facebook. Don't make me look this bad. Right, 4 minutes left. I don't see the one I did through the interface, but this one took a little bit to this took a little bit to go. We'll give it a refresh, and I'm gonna just call it there if it didn't come through. Bummer. I didn't see an error here though, so I'm curious why. Let's post it again and see if you try to post with the same message again, it'll often give you a duplicate. Oh, story ID null. Anyways, it does work. It is possible to do this. This is why you troubleshoot and try to understand it. But hopefully it shows you how you can use Postman to reverse engineer what's happening behind any application, as well as put known APIs like Twitter and many of these public APIs to work. But it shows you how, the foundation of the web is built using APIs. All of this data and content that you use daily is available via APIs. And so even if I did not get this one to work, which I'm pretty disappointed in myself, it does show you how you can use Postman plus Postman Interceptor to reverse engineer APIs and then automate and orchestrate. I'm going to refresh one last time in hopes that it's coming through. And it allows you to kind of take more control over the apps that you already depend on and use, like Facebook. Nope, did not go through. Live coding fail, but that's on me. Anyways, I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm gonna just assume that I don't have any, but I'll keep an eye on here. If you want to talk, feel free to ask questions via Discourse. I'm pretty easy to find. If you just type Ken Lane, I'm pretty easy to find on the Twitters and the GitHubs and everything. Ken Lane at Twitter. I'm pretty easy to find if you need to ask questions. And then make sure and head over to postman.com and download Postman if you haven't. If you are a Postman user, I highly recommend that you try out Interceptor. Highly recommend that you click over here on the APIs tab and learn how to build APIs, not just consume APIs. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we're happy to make sure you get your questions answered. You can grab us on Twitter, or you can go over here to community.postman, and this will be where you can find other people in the Postman community, You can find different questions that they've asked over the years and search and see if any of your any answers that you're looking for are there. But if you don't find what you're looking for, feel free to submit, and we are happy to talk to other folks and see what we can do to get your questions answered. With that said, I'll cut it out, and appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you.